Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome back to the St. Catharines Museum and Welland Canal Center. We are going to go on a tour of Collections C. We had two tours so far today for our Museum Week behind the scenes celebrations. This morning, we ran a collections tour of Collections A, and then at 1 o'clock, Sarah did a tour of Collections B. So if you missed those tours, definitely go back on our YouTube page and check out those two collections tours. We're now going to go into our third space, Collections C. We joke that it's for catch-all because in B, there's big stuff. In A, there's archival documents, but in C, it's pretty much all the rest and lots of different types of objects. So without further ado, let's go into C. So welcome to Collections C. Already, even within a few seconds, you can see lots of different types of storage. There's rolling storage here, which I'll go through. There's some really interesting things this way. And then there's these huge murals here and a couple of signs down there. So really we try to take advantage of all of the space that we have, even here in the hallway, all of the space that we have available to us to store all different types of things. So we're going to head straight into just open the shelf a little bit. Our great rolling storage here that allows us to store so much more because we can move the aisleways. So we don't need to save space for aisleways. So that's great. And as you can see here, we've got lots of different textiles, hanging textiles we call these, because they're strong enough to be hung on a hanger by their shoulders. There's a good number of clothing textiles that aren't strong enough in their shoulders. And so we keep them in boxes. And you can see some of those boxes down there. So we'll just take a quick look here. There's such a huge variety of textiles, clothing textiles in our collection. We have an evening dress that could be from the turn of the century, maybe. And what's great is our volunteers have gone through and made all these wonderful bags. And then our staff made these tags so that, again, if you remember our earlier tours this morning, we've got the barcodes and the accession numbers on the outside. And as well, what's really great with these is a picture of what's inside the bag so that we don't have to take it off the hanger, take the bag off, and potentially, if we're doing that a lot, potentially damage the object. So we've got an evening dress, a greatcoat, a cutaway frock, or sort of like a tails situation, like a tails jacket. But then if we just right across from the evening dress is, look at that. That's a pretty significant jersey, I would say, considering their most recent sweep. Sorry for the Winnipeg fans out there. And I guess as our only Canadian team in the playoffs, go Habs go. I'll get in trouble because I'm from Ottawa. Anyway, go Habs go. Woo! So you can see we have such a huge variety of textiles, hanging textiles, costumes, uniforms, old-timey dresses, suits, all sorts of things. In fact, one of the coolest ones, and I'm not going to pull it out for today, but one of the coolest ones that's been on display here at the museum before is a cocktail dress from Christian Dior cocktail dress from the 1948-1949 season. That's pretty cool. All right, we're going to head down and see some other textiles. And let me see, I just want to make sure I want to get the right one. It's possible. I think it's in the side. There's some really great, yes, hanging textiles here. Sorry, you got to see the back of my head there. So we've got a great number. Oh, I should mention, here's a whole bunch of more textiles. These are all cataloged. And as you can see, there's a lot of different types of hats. We've got a bonnet, a cocked hat, a top hat, and shoes, all sorts of different types. So those are obviously things that can't be hung up anymore. And actually, this is a really good example of a textile that used to be a hanging textile. This used to be hanging up, but the collection staff have decided to put it into a box instead. So it's actually just this dress in this box. And inside, it's not folded, but more like rolled and wrapped with a ton of tissue supporting the sleeves, supporting the skirt, and making sure that the textile doesn't fold. Speaking of not folding textiles, if you've ever come across a carpet or maybe a blanket, like a wool blanket, or any sort of comforter that's been folded and put away for a long period of time, you'll know, oops, I'm tangled up here. Sorry, 1 second. This way we won't toss the iPad, great. You'll know that the folds in the textiles create creases over time. And over a long period of time, if you've ever come across this, you open up that textile and it almost breaks like a book spine. So it's not great to fold your textiles. It's much better to roll them. And so we've got lots and lots of rolled textiles here, from everything from quilts to carpets to flags. And you'll see this very long textile down here. It's long. I can actually say it is 20 feet long because it is the Victory Loan flag that was last on display in 2018 here at the museum. It's 12 by 20 feet, the Victory Loan flag. You can check out more information about the Victory Loan flag on our blog. Now, we don't have time to see every single aisle. I should be getting a time warning soon from our wonderful tech wizards. But I just want to show a couple more things and the rest of the room before we get to an unboxing of our artifact at the end of today's tour. One thing that we want to make sure of when we're looking at storage and textiles and that kind of thing as well, and you can see here, I'll get out of the way so you can take a look at our bicycle storage. I bet all the bicycle people are envious of our bicycle storage. One thing that we want to look out for are a number of different threats to objects that we have to sort of watch out for. So things like I mentioned on our tour this morning, things like paper might degrade over time. Things that are exposed to light, especially textiles, can fade really easily. If you think about that favorite red shirt of yours that's maybe a bit older and it's faded over time, or you left it on the clothesline too long and it's faded over time, we have to protect the artifacts from light damage, from temperature fluctuations, as Sarah mentioned in her tour in Collections B. We have to protect it from time, really, and that's really going back to what I was saying about the creases in textiles. Certain materials last longer than others, and a good example of that is here in the bicycle aisle. Metal, of course. We expect metal to last for a very long time, and that's no surprise. It's made up of really strong materials, but wood and rubber we don't expect to last as long of a time. So if I zoom in, you can see a little bit better probably that the rubber on the wheels of this bicycle, this very significant bicycle, this is Dorothy Dewey's bicycle, again, which we talk about quite a bit. It's a fantastic bicycle. And we have a picture of her riding the bicycle, or with the bicycle at Montebello Park. It's from 1890. It was made in St. Catharines. So the metal's fine. It's great. It'll be great forever, probably. But the wood and the rubber are definitely materials that will degrade over time. So this is just kind of some of the things that we have to pay attention to. A lot of the other types of threats to artifacts might be, as I mentioned, light, water damage, Fire obviously is a big one. We want to make sure that we're very fire conscious here at the museum. I'm tangled up again. Theft and insects as well. And insects is something I didn't mention in our tour in Collections A, that some insects love to eat paper. And so we've got to make sure that and then also like just random, mice do a lot of damage to textiles, moths as well. So we really have to pay attention to our pest control as well. So there's lots of threats to artifacts, and the whole goal of the museum's collection is to preserve the artifacts for future, to preserve our past and the story of St. Catharines, and all of those things we have to kind of constantly keep watch for. And luckily our collection staff does such a great job at that. Another common problem in every museum's collection, not just ours, is cataloging. And this is sort of more of an intangible threat to artifacts, that a lot of the time, some artifacts are missing the information. And over time, people who donated the object or the photographs die and pass on, and we don't have access to their information anymore. And so when we take in new objects, it's really important for us to get the full story about the objects. So what happens sometimes is that things from the past were taken without the information, or information has gone missing, and that information isn't available anymore, and we don't know enough about the object to be able to tell its story. So that's something that we take a lot of care for. Is there's the tangible care of looking out for insects and temperature and light, and then there's the intangible care of really taking care to catalog our objects properly. A big cataloging project here at the St. Catharines Museum is, of course, the St. Catharines Standard Photograph Collection. So you can see there's glass plate negatives in these little folders. There's 1 billion here and 1 billion in this aisle. It's actually not 1 billion, it's 600,000 photographs that were donated from the St. Catharines Standard. And the photographs are every single photograph a photographer took between 1936 and about 2000. So our collections staff have a great number. You can see ones with Post-its down there. Those are all markers of where folks are at. I believe I'm probably wrong because it's not my wheelhouse, but we're in and about somewhere in the late 1940s in terms of cataloging. So we still have a good 50 years to go. Speaking of photographs, though, there is lots of different types of storage here in Collection C, as I mentioned, and we have some great art racks to handle some of the photographs in our collection that are printed and framed. So these objects here were given to us with the frame. And taking a closer look, you can see that the art storage is really great, because how else would we store sort of a panoramic photo of the military, some of the military units that we have, but then also you can just see there's tons of different types of things in our different types of art. There's paintings, there's pictures, there's certificates, all sorts of different things. And most of the art in our collection isn't collected because it's good. I shouldn't say good art, valuable art. We don't have a Van Gogh. We have art that is related to the history of the city, either hung in somebody's house that was significant, or it is a picture of a significant unit. And I'm running out of time because, of course, it's an enormous space, and I've been given an enormous challenge to look at all this stuff. But you can just see aisles and aisles and aisles and aisles of stuff. So I just want to say that next time we offer bowling pins, next time we offer a tour of, you can see more rolling storage down here, just a whole bunch of stuff. Oops, excuse me, sorry. Next time we offer an in-person tour of the collections. It's a good hour to see all 3 spaces, and you definitely want to sign up. It is a pretty fantastic tour. Now, I know I'm going over time and I apologize, but I just want to show you a specific object because we promised we would unbox an object on our tours today. And the object that I've chosen is actually in our drawers here. We have tons. These are small, what we call small items drawers, and just small items go in the drawers. There's no surprise there. These are mostly tools. There's some horseshoes for you. There's jewelry. There's watches and glasses and ink pots and all sorts of things, ribbons and medals and coins and hockey pucks as well. Significant hockey pucks. And I'm just gonna get the object that we're talking about today down from this bottom shelf. And I'm not gonna take it out of this package because I don't have gloves. And also it's really complicated. And you can just get you can get a much better look at it. Excuse my fingers. You can get a much better look at these the way I'm holding them. So these are a really interesting set of handcuffs that have a really cool story. These belonged to Jack Hills. They were Jack or John Hills. He served in the Second World War and landed at Dieppe. And unfortunately, during that landing, he was shot in the leg. It's a really interesting story. And he was essentially immobilized, injured. He survived, and and from the story he told, it's about 8 hours later, some of the survivors on the beach and in the water were picked up by the Germans and sent to various POW camps. His story tracks from France into Germany at a bunch of different prisoner of war camps. And at the prisoner of war camp, and all the prisoners were forced to wear these handcuffs at all times with very little break, apparently maybe a break for Christmas. And there were punishments if you were caught out of your handcuffs. And at one point, Jack stole a key so that him and his buddies, I think this is the key there, him and his buddies could get out of the handcuffs, and he hid it in a really smelly food box so that it wouldn't be searched. Nobody would look in there because it was under beets or something like that. So the key let them out once in a while. And he was caught twice out of his handcuffs and had to stare. The punishment was to stare at a wall for 8 hours. So you had to stand there and stare at the wall, which is not great. Anyway, so they were able to get out of their handcuffs every once in a while. And then eventually they were liberated by the Russians as the Russians moved into Germany. And he held on to these handcuffs. He wanted it's interesting because he said that, he could sell them, that at the time, he could have got a lot of money for them. They're a pretty valuable artifact from that war, but he wanted to hang on to them because what good would the money do? And so they were donated to the museum in 1995. As you can see, there's our accession number, and with a few other things, including his journal. And we're really, really lucky to have an artifact like this that was donated by the person, and he was able to tell us all about his experience wearing these handcuffs every day for 2 years. So that's the type of story and object that we have here in Collection C and here at the St. Catharines Museum. So just to wrap up, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for our 3 collections tours today. If you missed the earlier 2, you can catch them on our YouTube channel, and definitely hang out with us this week on social media for Museum Week. We hope everybody has a great Museum Week, and we hope you come and visit us as soon as we're open sometime soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye.